yesterday, the great and sainted Dr. Fauci, second best doctor in America after Dr. Joe Biden. He came out and he said he's now for mandates when it comes to air travel. Now, this is completely anti-scientific. Air travel has not been a vector of disease this entire time. They have HEPA filters on the planes. Even at the beginning of the pandemic, when there were no vaccines available, there was very little transmission on planes. In fact, you were safer on a plane than you were in pretty much any other area because of the ventilation. The CDC says as much, by the way. The CDC has an entire report where they said, we were surprised to learn that planes really were not being used as vectors of transmission. Now you have Anthony Fauci basically saying, we want to ban an entire group of people in the United States from being able to fly and travel. We want to put you on a no-fly list, like you're a terrorist, if you won't get vaccinated. Why, per se? Now they say it's to protect the vaccinated. I'm not kidding you. This is their idiotic line. Kamala Harris tweeted this out yesterday. Now, Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, actually tweeted out, by vaccinating the unvaccinated, increasing our testing and masking, and protecting the vaccinated, we can end this pandemic. Protecting the vaccinated? You know what protects the vaccinated? The vaccine. That's why they're called the vaccinated. I was protected the minute my antibodies kicked in after the vaccine. Protecting the vaccinated. This is an attempt to divide Americans, as always. Okay, so here's Fauci saying something completely anti-scientific, but we're supposed to believe him because, after all, he is to science.
I would support that if you want to get on a plane and travel with other people, that you should be vaccinated.
Why? Well, I mean, I think you should be vaccinated generally, but why is that a precondition to travel? Seriously, why? Hey, by the way, this contradicts Dr. Fauci circa 2019. So in 2019, he was directly asked by a reporter from Bloomberg, so are masks a great way of preventing disease? 2019, just prior to the pandemic. His answer sounds exactly like Joe Rogan.
And the best way for me to prevent getting an infectious disease and having to have you as my doctor is what? Wearing a mask?
No.
Don't need to do that. If I can see they're ready to sneeze or cough, walk away.
You avoid all the paranoid aspects and do something positive. A, good diet. B, you don't smoke, I know. I know you don't drink, at least not very much, so that's pretty good. Get some exercise. I know that you don't get as much exercise as you should.
That's Dr. Anthony Fauci circa 2019. But now, to be a member of the elect, you have to do what Dr. Anthony Fauci says, even in direct contradiction to... It is amazing, by the way. We've gone this entire pandemic, and there's been no systematic discussion of whether Americans should exercise. That is kind of an amazing thing. You can be both pro-vaccine and pro-exercise, which, by the way, would be the actual scientific position here. That vaccines are good, and also it is better not to be fat. Okay, it is better as a health matter not to be overweight. That does not mean there aren't people who struggle with it, but there are a lot of people who are not doing their exercise and not eating healthy. That is just a reality in the United States. Whenever people talk about the health gaps in the United States versus Scandinavia, it's because we're way fatter than Scandinavia. It's not because our medical system sucks. It's because our medical system can't fix the fact that many of us are gigantic. And that is just a reality. But again, Anthony Fauci is a member of the elect, so you have to listen to him. And if you don't listen to him, then you are cast into the outer darkness. And now they're making it more and more radical, right? Zeke Emanuel says you'll be cast into the outer darkness if you don't want to mask or vaccinate your small children. Now, again, I'm wondering where, there better be some pretty exorbitant data on the lack of risk to children from this vaccine, because the lack of risk from COVID is well substantiated at this point. In the United States, the number of children under the age of 18 who have died in the United States from COVID is 412 over the course of a year and a half during this pandemic, as opposed to well over 950 who've died from pneumonia in that same exact period of time. Here is Zeke Emanuel, however, saying we need to actually mandate that small school children get the vaccine.
Only 40% of those kids, 12 to 15, have gotten fully vaccinated. We really need that number to go way up. Just to give you a contrast, adults between 65 and 75 who were so threatened before, 85% of them are vaccinated. We need to really mandate, I think, 12 to 15-year-olds to get the vaccine all across the country.
That's unbelievable. Okay, what he's saying, he just compared vaccination rates among 12 to 15-year-olds, for whom we are talking about maybe a few dozen deaths. Everyone terrible, but a few dozen deaths over the course of a year and a half. He's comparing that to people and their rates 65 and older, which is everyone who died in the United States. Is a disease that heavily skews toward killing the elderly. Meanwhile, the administration, again, contra the science, is saying that everybody should get boosters. Its own CDC is like, nope. The CDC and the WHO are both like, yeah, we're not seeing it, guys. Like, we looked at the data, and what we are saying is that the vaccination had 95% effectiveness against severe disease from both Delta and Alpha. More than 80% effectiveness in protecting against infection from those variants. They noted that waning antibody levels don't necessarily correlate with a decrease in effectiveness against severe disease because you got T cell and B cell immunity, right? Boosters may eventually be needed, say the scientists, but there could be risks if boosters were widely introduced too soon or too frequently, because it might create adverse reactions when you do too many shots too fast. And yet the Biden administration is rushing forward with this sort of stuff. And apparently, if you note any of this, then you will be cast into the outer darkness. Right? Then you're one of the bad people. It's all about being a member of the elect versus a member of the non-elect. And that is why our politics are so broken. And they're not getting fixed anytime soon. Because the culture war issue of our time is whether you think your neighbor is a bad person. It is not the vaccine. It is not racial issues. It is not tax issues. It is none of that. It's whether you are oriented against the institutions of the country and are therefore part of the revolutionary vanguard while benefiting from it, or if you're not. That is how we determine. There is a reason why. I mean, there's a poll that just came out, a Scott Rasmussen national survey, and this is backed by other data. I mean, Kirsten Soltis Anderson did a poll last year, basically finding the same thing. And what this poll found is that 57% of Democratic voters believe that supporters of Donald Trump are a serious threat to the nation. So they literally believe that half of their fellow Americans are a serious threat to the nation itself. That is as opposed to, say, the Taliban. Only 44% of Democrats believe that the Taliban are a threat to the country, or believe that China is a threat to the country, or believe that defund the police activists are a threat to the country. 56% of Democrats believed unvaccinated Americans are a threat to the country. Again, once you're vaccinated, they're not a threat to you. Okay, only 37% believed that Russia is a threat to the country. Fully 57% believed that Donald Trump supporters are a threat to the country. Now, if you look at how non-identifying voters rank these issues in terms of who they think is a threat to the country, not GOP, not Dem, in this poll, the top threats, according to the independent voters, are in order: Taliban, China, defund the police activists, unvaccinated Americans, Russia, Donald Trump supporters, illegal immigrants, and socialists. And Trump supporters and socialists are basically on par with one another, according to sort of independent voters. Okay, but when you take a large percentage of the country, 40% of the country, and you say what makes you good or what makes you bad is your agreement with my dumb slogan on the back of my dress, and anything that we say together that is oriented against this other group of people, we don't care if they lose their jobs, they're the baddies, then what you end up with is a country that is broken beyond repair. And it's not a shock that you're going to end up with the sorting mechanism that you have seen in terms of American population movements. It is not a shock that you've seen people like me and my family move from California to Florida. Because who wants to live in an area where your neighbors look at you cross-eyed because you voted a way that didn't want you to vote, or because you live a lifestyle they don't want you to live? Who wants to do that? The answer is nobody. And so what you're going to end up with, because of the culture war stuff, it is all culture war all the way down. Donald Trump was not elected because of his economic program. Donald Trump was not elected because of his foreign policy program. No one could name what those programs were in 2016. He was elected because Donald Trump was a giant FU to this entire group of people who say that anyone who disagrees with them is part of the damned and are going straight to hell. There is a paganistic religious perspective, and what you see at the Met Gala every single year is the pagan priesthood at work. And if you can't see that is why it's amazing, because I think the independent voter, the Republican voter, they look at Democrats and like, I don't understand why people are treating Joe Biden or treating this administration or treating Barack Obama, for that matter, treating these people like they're good at what they do. Like, who looks at the way that these folks handle the issues and thinks to themselves, those people need more control over my life? You understand? For the people who vote for that, it is not about that group of people having more control over their lives. It's about they're willing to take the hit so that they will have control over your life. There's a very famous episode in the extended Bible, not the 5 books of Moses, but in the prophets. There's a very famous episode in which 2 women come to King Solomon, and they are fighting over the identity of a baby. So they both had babies at the same exact time. One, their baby died. The other, the baby lived. And the woman whose baby lived is accusing the woman whose baby died of stealing the baby. So they come in front of King Solomon, and they ask Solomon to solve the riddle. Whose baby is this? And Solomon says, my solution is I'm going to cut the baby in half. And the woman whose baby died says, fine. And the woman whose baby lived says, no, I don't care whether or not this is, it doesn't matter to me if I'd rather she have the baby than that the baby die. And Solomon immediately says, okay, you're obviously the mother because you care whether the baby lives or dies. Understand that for the radicals in our society, the destruction is the point. It is not about what it is replaced with. And it is not about destruction of the system. It is about destruction of you. It is about destruction of people who do not think like they do. They don't care if they have to take the hit in New York by vaccinating, by vaccine mandates, and you got to take a vaccine to get on a plane because it doesn't affect them. It affects you. This is more about revenge against people who do not think the way they do than it is about promulgating anything good or beneficial. They don't care whether you get vaccinated. If they did, they would actually try to convince you to get vaccinated if you're unvaccinated. They don't care about any of that. What they care about most deeply is their continuing sense of moral superiority and your continued feeling of moral inferiority. And if they can elect somebody who's going to bang on all of the people they hate most, then all the rest of it, they can go to whatever fancy cocktail parties they want and be as hypocritical as they want. They can hang out with AOC and the celebs at whatever Tony, ritzy gala they want to go to because they are better than you. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all our future content.